For restoring antiques discovered in an attic to its former glory, Rick Dale and his team were the go-to experts. The American Restoration, a popular reality TV program, was born out of their success. The show was a smashing success while it was on, and viewers were rummaging through their own homes in search of a new prize. The 2016 cancellation of the program was a disaster, despite his excellent and intriguing performance. The events leading up to the show's cancellation have left many viewers scratching their heads. The chain reaction began with a horrific event, yet this fact remains unknown to many. In today's video, we'll examine what happened before the horrific catastrophe and why it was the final straw that brought an end to the American Restoration. However, the creator of the American Restoration, Rick Dale, must be mentioned whenever the subject is discussed. Unlike most individuals, Rick Dale has always had a soft spot for vintage items. He grew up in an environment full with people he could help restore. Long before television became commonplace, he was a repairman. Newport Beach, California is the site of Rick's birth on December 13, 1970. His parents encouraged him to solve challenges creatively and unconventionally from a young age. Rick and his brother Ron's passion in fixing things rather than buying new parts was fostered by their army-serving father. As a person, Rick has always had an innate curiosity. He had a knack for disassembling household items as a kid and then reassembling them at a later date. Because of his awe at their beauty and functionality, antiques piqued his curiosity. When Rick was a teenager, he started repairing up bicycles, old tools, and anything else that needed fixing since he was meticulous. As a side hustle, Rick began fixing things. After finishing high school, he worked odd jobs here and there, but his true passion was always fixing things. He began his career by repairing an old Coke machine for his parents. He got the notion to make a living doing what he loved after receiving requests from friends and neighbors for similar services. In the late 80s, Rick opened Rick's Restorations in Sin City, Nevada, taking a chance on his business. The original concentration was on selling vintage gadgets and collectibles when the company was much smaller. Over time, Rick gained a reputation for meticulousness and the ability to restore broken items to working order. Slowly but surely, his clientele grew as word of his work spread among collectors. American Restoration was the catalyst for his meteoric rise to fame on the History Channel. Before that, Rick Dale ran a low-key but lucrative restoration company out of Las Vegas, Nevada called Rick's Restorations. It was well respected for its meticulous craftsmanship and lack of showiness, but it failed to gain widespread recognition outside of collector circles. Especially when it came to vintage Americana, Rick was a master at restoring items that evoked strong feelings of nostalgia. Among the many things he worked on were jukeboxes, gas pumps, light signs, vintage objects, and Coca-Cola machines. There was more to these than meets the eye. Rick double-checked that everything still functioned as intended and appeared just as it had upon creation. The storefront was unpretentious and practical for the job. There was a designated spot for each stage of fixing the problem: deconstructing, repairing, painting, and reassembling. As the assortment of discarded tools, components, and unfinished projects displayed on the shelves attests, a great deal of effort went into each item. It served as a location to get things done rather than a mall or tourist attraction when it was in its heyday. Individuals seeking unique products such as antique dealers, small company owners, and private collectors made up the bulk of Rick's clientele. Even though he hadn't achieved national fame just yet, he was well known in his hometown and among antiques enthusiasts. Because he was reliable, talented, and concerned about the piece's histories, Rick had little trouble landing jobs. Maintaining this kind of enterprise was not a picnic. When they initially arrived at Rick's shop, many of the objects he repaired were in terrible condition. Deterioration, fractured pieces, and missing pieces abound. Repair components for items that were decades old were incredibly difficult to come by. On occasion, Rick has to fabricate components from the ground up to guarantee their accuracy. The final product always spoke for itself, even though some tasks were difficult and time-consuming. Once TV directors discovered Rick, he quickly became a household name in the restoration industry. They witnessed his devotion to his work and the history of the structures he restored, sparking the American Restoration movement. More people started paying attention to Rick's shop and skills after the show. But back when the show wasn't airing, it was just a guy's shop dedicated to repurposing vintage items. With its abundance of flavor-enhancing anecdotes, American Restoration is the show that revives old recipes. The origin tale of American Restoration begins with an intriguing History Channel program called Pawn Stars. Pawn Stars took place in a pawn shop in Las Vegas. Vintage and one-of-a-kind items were brought in by the public for sale or lending. It was necessary to repair a few of these items before they could be considered useful again. Then Rick Dale stepped in. He was already the owner and operator of a repair firm called Rick's Restorations. Its reputation preceded it as a top performer. Someone had to fix up an old Coca-Cola machine for the Pawn Star squad at some point. Rick performed an excellent job when they called him. With enthusiasm and expertise, Rick not only fixed the machine, but he also described it. Members of the previous channel staff adored Rick's ability to detail the item's history while demonstrating the difficulty of giving it a modern appearance. They fantasized about Rick hosting his own show dedicated solely to making things right. They informed him about it in this way. The episode chronicled Rick and his crew's restoration of vintage items, including jukeboxes, light signs, and gas pumps. Every episode would feature detailed instructions on how to restore an old, broken item to its former glory. However, the focus would extend beyond the tasks at hand to include the stories and significance of the individuals who donated the objects. The proposal was swiftly put into motion because Rick was a fan. Right after its October 2010 premiere, American Restoration became an instant hit with viewers. The audience thoroughly enjoyed witnessing the incredible transformations and gaining knowledge about the object's histories. Thanks to Rick's enthusiasm, his talented crew, and his interactions with his family, wife Kelly, and son Tyler, the presentation was even more entertaining. At the end of each episode, the customer, who was nearly always impressed, got a grand tour of the repaired item. The show was well received by many viewers due to that delightful moment of surprise. American Restoration starred Rick and his crew for 6 years. Rick promised fans from across the globe that he could make their belongings vanish once the show ended if they sent them to Sin City. Rick Dale and his crew at Rick's Restorations, a Las Vegas business that breathes new life into vintage items, were introduced to viewers of American Restoration's first 6 seasons. Thanks to its high-quality production values, compelling characters, and touching plots, the series swiftly won both nostalgia and restoration enthusiasts. In the pilot, viewers met the employees and got to know Rick's shop. The show featured the restoration of various vintage items, such as gas pumps and barber chairs, in each episode. The items that people brought in were frequently deeply meaningful or historically significant. Rick and his staff made a point to repair them in a way that paid tribute to those stories. The shop was Tyler's Rick's gig. He was a preteen. His relaxed demeanor occasionally angered his parents, but he was still learning the craft. This includes Rick's brother Ron, who is a sluggish but competent picker, and Brettley, who is Rick's grandchild and a quirky character who has a soft place for blunders. Their friendship and teamwork enhanced the show's comedic and emotional qualities. The further the presentation progressed, the more varied and challenging the tasks became. Everything from neon signs to vintage stoves would end up in Rick's shop, and he would occasionally purchase items to restore and resell. Viewers may learn how to patch things up while enjoying the show thanks to Rick's tips. Relationships within the family held greater significance throughout this era. Kelly, who was Rick's wife, oversaw the commercial operations of the store. She handled customer service and kept the crew organized. Rick proposed to Kelly in a memorable episode, adding a personal touch that resonated with viewers. Conflicts arose on the team as a result of Tyler's promotion to shop manager. Rick had his repair business up and running by mid-season. In the shop, 6 or 12 projects would typically be underway at once. Toy trains to one-of-a-kind motorcycles are all fair game. The expanding team that Rick had on hand included artists Nico and Leonard, who enjoyed digging for hidden riches. The shop's continued success was dependent on long-term employees like finisher Kyle and talented metal cleaner Cowboy. Despite the team's impressive skill set, the variety of personalities on display kept things fresh. Ron's glacial work rate and Cowboy's gloomy disposition frequently tested Rick's patience. Brettley started to prove that he might be an excellent picker. His exceptional salesmanship stunned the audience on one show. While Rick maintained an optimistic outlook, he also made sure everyone felt welcome and cared for. By the time the sixth season rolled around, American Restoration was thriving. They tackled some of their most ambitious and challenging undertakings to date. They demonstrated their ability and creativity with each repair. Customers' sentimental attachment to their possessions is brought to light by the stories behind the things that remained at the center. The store expanded as a result of Bretley's growing confidence and Tyler's increasing level of responsibility. The organization stayed on course thanks to Kelly's managerial efforts, making ensuring that Rick's creative concepts could flourish. American Restoration's first 6 seasons were fantastic due to the show's brilliance, historical accuracy, and emotional depth. Rick Dale's team members had a passion for fixing things that mirrored his own. The program was enhanced by their eccentricities and the bonds they shared. Everything from the incredible transformations of rusty antiques to the heartwarming responses of viewers showcased in each broadcast was a testament to the power of repurposing. Reality TV's Rick's Restorations is still popular and beloved. Even if the show has moved on to other repair companies, it wasn't merely about resolving issues. The focus was on preserving stories, paying homage to history, and bringing joy to people via the art of restoration. The 7th season, however, was marred by tragedy. A lot happened in Season 7 of the History Channel. They decided to involve multiple nationwide repair shops rather than limiting it to Rick Dale and his crew at Rick's Restorations. More variety and fresh restoration concepts were to be conveyed. The show's main attraction, Rick, was sidelined as a result of this adjustment. Fans of the pilot were disappointed because they were rooting for Rick's business and his crew. Like many reality TV programs, American Restoration's viewership dwindled over time. Since people's preferences change with time, it's possible that some viewers may have lost interest or stopped tuning in after a few seasons. It was difficult for the show to maintain its previous level of popularity after taking a fresh route and showing other stores. By the time American Restoration finished its run, there were many of similar shows on TV, Counting Cars, American Pickers, Pawn Stars, and countless more focused on collecting and repairing antiques.